Alvin, my boyfriend and roommate, stood in front of me, holding my grandmother's antique serving dish. It was a classic, with one side covered in applique roses. Maybe 50 years old, Grandma had special ordered it from a celebrity chef back in the 1970s. When she moved to Modesto, she gave it to me. Though rare, I'd seen others on eBay, and they weren't cheap. It was a nice dish, one I was proud of. I'm Levi Spence, age 21, and like Grandma, I like to cook. Except right now. Put it down, Alvin, I said. I'm sorry. His smirk worsened, and he said, I don't believe you. This isn't the first time you didn't do what I wanted, but it will be the last. You even yelled back at me. You don't yell at me, ever. Then you served me green beans for dinner. You know I hate green beans. You need to learn to respect me. I'm sorry. Just put my dish down, I said. Grandma gave it to me. Just calm down. If this is what it takes to teach you to respect your betters, Alvin said, and threw Grandma's antique dish to the floor. I lunged, hands outstretched to catch it, but was too late. The beautiful ceramic dish splintered into a dozen pieces. What is your problem? I screamed, kneeling next to the broken dish. You're yelling at me because you don't like green beans? You don't treat people like that, and you don't break other people's things. You are an idiot. You shut the F up, Alvin screamed. I was in Alvin's way, so he violently pushed me aside. I fell to the floor, landing amid the wreckage of the ceramic floral dish. It also pushed what little love I had left for him out of the way. That one shove suddenly made me think clearly. Why had I given Alvin so many chances? Alvin screamed at me, yelling, You will do what I say, and you will treat me with respect. Clean this mess up by the time I get back. I'm going to the bar to relax. I didn't listen to what he said, and I no longer cared. My mind had already formulated a plan. Alvin walked out the door, leaving me with the ruined dish, the untouched dinner I had served on the table, and the growing unease in my soul. I'd only realized after moving in with Alvin nearly a year ago that the guy had anger issues. When something triggers him, he starts shouting and screaming. His tantrums had never been this bad before. He never got physical before. Thanks to Dad, I knew the progression. Today, it was a shove. Tomorrow, it would be a slap. The next week, it would be a punch. Alvin had come back to our apartment earlier tonight, angry and ranting about something that hadn't gone his way at work. Something had triggered him tonight, but I no longer cared. I had to get out of here. Now. I can't go to Mom's place. The clutterbug didn't have room. Dad doesn't live in Nevada anymore, and I wouldn't go to his place anyway. My sister had her hands full, with her husband and 2 kids. As I was packing, I called one of my friends. They contacted somebody from the Lord's Brightness Ministry's LGBTQ outreach, who then contacted somebody from the Campus Crisis Center. On the advice of the Campus Crisis Center, I took pictures of what Alvin had done and sent them to the social worker they assigned me. Grab your driver's license, bank stuff, and any other important papers because I want you out of there, the social worker, Hannah, hurriedly said through the phone. It's just stuff and can be replaced. I ignored what she said as the panic built inside me and asked, Can you find me a place to stay, or should I stay in my car tonight? She paused, took a deep breath, and slowly exhaled. I'll call you back, but get out of there. I began to cram my things in boxes and shopping bags and ran them to my car. Hannah called me back 15 minutes later. Are you out of there yet? Almost, I lied. I have a phone number, Hannah said. It's the people in charge of scheduling the dorms. I explained your situation, and, along with the Campus Crisis Center, they arranged a spot for you. It's the beginning of the school year, the time when dorms are shuffled around like dominoes. There's options, especially in an emergency. Find some place to stay tonight, and tomorrow you will report to Paulson Hall. One of my friends let me crash at his place tonight. One couch is as good as another. I'd return the favor by buying him a burger combo at Gordon's Gourmet Burgers. It was after 10 when Alvin called. I debated whether to pick up, and finally did. "Hi, Alvin. Just to let you know, I'm recording our conversation," I said. "Recording?" He seemed to pause. I allowed myself a grim smile as I said, "You shoved me and broke Grandma's antique dish, remember?" "You made me angry," Alvin said, "so you deserved it." "That's $400 for the dish," I said. "You break it, you buy it." "You expect me to pay that much for a stupid dish?" Alvin yelled. "Where are you anyway? When are you coming home? You never cleaned up your dish, and you left all the food you made on the table." "I'm not telling you anything," I said. "You're a violent psychopath, and you're never seeing me again. I'm dumping you." "Nobody dumps me. You will get back here immediately, and if you don't," he yelled, and started to swear. He paused to take a breath. "Just come back, okay?" I'd heard enough, so I yelled, "Why would anyone want to stay with an angry beast like you? The answer is no." I hung up, and when he called back, I didn't pick up. For the first time in a long time, I slept. It was a relief being away from Alvin. But what would happen if he ever found me? That's not going to happen. Paulson Hall was a co-ed dorm, smelling of old socks laced with body spray and French fries. Guys bunked with guys, girls with girls, but it was all intermixed on the same floor. 5 stories tall, it had 24 dorms per floor. What was nice was that it had shared bathrooms instead of communal bathrooms. 2 dorms shared 1 bathroom. On the main floor, it also had a large laundry room and a gym with free weights and treadmills. Also, like any other dorm, it was never quiet. Music played everywhere. Somebody yelled at somebody else about some kind of drama at any time during the day. Several people played musical instruments in the various lounges, and some people even studied. The people in charge had texted me my new room. 4th floor, number 7, sharing a bathroom with number 8. The little sliver of fear in my gut made me nervous. My life had changed in an instant, and no matter how fast I ran, I couldn't keep up. The campus crisis center had arranged for me to meet with my social worker at 1 in the afternoon, and she'd introduced me to my new roommate. I took the elevator to the 4th floor, stilled my breath, and found her waiting just outside the elevator. A big woman, she smiled like she was everybody's older sister, and her caring eyes made me feel a little safer. "I'm Hannah," she said. "Just so you know, your information is confidential, and we won't give it out. We have a security hotline that you can call at any time, and they pride themselves on being as fast as the police." We walked a short distance to room number 7, with Hannah telling me the rules and procedures for Paulson Hall, my new home. With the way this building was set up, technically, I didn't have 1 roommate, but 3. Hannah handed me a packet of information, including the emergency hotline number. Ironically, it was also posted around the building. "Does my new roommate know about my situation?" I asked. "A little," Hannah said. "I'd say it would be a good idea to fill him in on the details." She knocked on room 7's door, and a second later, the door opened a little. My new roommate answered. "Madison Matters," Hannah said. "This is Levi Spence." And just like that, a sudden wave of shyness came over me. I was also a little embarrassed. Whoever this guy was, he didn't deserve my baggage. "Everybody calls me Mads," he said, and opened the door all the way. I've already set up on the left, so you get the right. Welcome to Paulson Hall." Mads was younger than me, by 2 years, maybe 3, with brown hair with highlights. He must be a freshman newly graduated from high school, and finally escaping from his parents. What was I getting the kid into? Hannah stayed a moment to say a few things, leaving me a card with her number on it. Once she left, Mads took me through the bathroom to meet Tate and Boris, my other 2 roommates. Boris was a bigger guy with dark hair, dark skin, and a crooked smile. He seemed nice enough. Tate was lean and wiry. He wore a black Beastie Boys shirt with the sleeves ripped off, an old pair of black shorts, and his tawny hair was insanely curly. Did he perm it, or was it natural? Based on the rainbow flag above his desk and pictures from what looked like last year's Vegas Pride Parade, he must be a card-carrying gay guy with a ton of contacts. On the wall next to the pride flag was a plaque from the Open Palm Dojo with a neatly folded black belt attached to it. Several pictures of an exhausted Tate wearing a karate uniform and surrounded by other guys also wearing karate uniforms hung next to the plaque. Tate must have some story to tell. Unfortunately, what had happened with Alvin made me leery of relationships. The pieces of Grandma's antique baking dish still made me sad. I shouldn't be suspicious of Tate. He had nothing to do with anything. But the last 24 hours had left their scars. I didn't want to be in any relationship right now. Maybe not for a long time either. Still, he was sexy in that retro bad boy kind of way. It doesn't hurt to make a good impression, though, so I quickly said, "If you guys help me get my stuff out of the car, I'll buy pizza and drinks." Alvin kept trying to call me or text me. Won't he give up? I'd had enough of him, so I blocked him and began my new life in Paulson Hall. Alvin knew I went to college, but he didn't know where my classes were. He didn't know where I lived, but he did know where I worked. I got to know the guys, got to settle into my new life and new peace for only 2 weeks. I hadn't spoken to Alvin for that entire time, and I was hoping he had moved on. I worked at Upton Kitchenware and Appliances, located in a large strip mall about halfway between Vegas and Henderson. I make a decent wage, plus commissions on any big appliance sale. It's a good job. I like it. I was working the floor, attending to a homeowner working on home renovations. They wanted the works: refrigerator, separate freezer, gas stove, expensive disposal, programmable dishwasher, trash compactor, a large over-the-stove microwave, washing machine, gas dryer, a clothes steamer, and special hardware for the sink. All special ordered, all high-end, and everything was dark stainless steel. It would make their kitchen look like some show kitchen from one of those home improvement shows. I had been looking up product numbers on our company's website, as well as current pricing. In other words, I was very busy helping the customer. I had begun to enjoy my new life, when suddenly some sixth sense made me nervous. Though I didn't see him at first, some part of me knew he was there. Alvin had just walked into the store. Just like when I first met him, he had dressed to the nines. He wore a nice suit with a nice haircut, carrying a bouquet of 12 roses, surrounded by some gauzy baby's breath held together with a blue ribbon. Baby's breath is a delicate type of greenery that is often paired with roses, and blue was my favorite color. Was. One part of my mind noted that it wasn't a cheap bouquet or a cheap suit, and it was a fresh, salon-styled haircut. He looked like he'd been cut out of a fashion magazine. My heart skipped as I remembered how much I loved Alvin. This was like how he dressed and acted more than a year ago. Alvin had gone all out to try and impress me. Then we moved in together. My heart stung as I remembered the last time I'd seen him. His fancy clothes and flowers and haircut made me sick to my stomach. He saw me and walked directly towards me. My gut crawled into my throat. I ignored Alvin and spoke to the customer. Unfortunately, the original model you chose is no longer offered in dark stainless steel. Let's see what others we can find. With the customer sitting right next to me, and as I pulled up the listings for microwaves, Alvin casually leaned against one of the demo dishwashers and said, "Levi, when are you coming home? I can't keep the place as nice as you do." Without looking up, I simply said, "I found a new home, and I'll be at least another hour putting this order together before I can talk." That seemed to give Alvin pause, so I pulled up one of the alternate listings and showed it to the client. This model isn't exactly like the one you selected, but it has the same dimensions, and more importantly, comes in dark stainless steel. Except for the handle, it's the closest match, and it is on sale. "I need to talk to you right now," Alvin said, his impatience staining his voice. "You have to come back to me today." "I'm helping a customer," I said. The client pointed at the highlighted price and said, "How long will the price be this low?" I clicked the price, pulled up a pop-up, and before I could answer, Alvin said, "What the hell are you waiting for? An apology? So I broke your grandma's dish. Get over it. It's only a stupid dish." "A very expensive dish. You need to leave right now," I said, and picked up the phone. My hand was shaking. "Even your mom agrees that leaving me is stupid," Alvin said, beginning to yell. The phone clicked into customer service, and I quietly said, "Security to appliances, Grasshopper." Grasshopper was our code that things were serious and help was required. Immediately. The client stared at me. I stared at Alvin, making sure to meet his gaze. Alvin gave me a slight smile and said, "You still love me. You know it. I'm not leaving until you come home with me. I don't care what you think. We are perfect together." "Is that why you broke my stuff?" I said. But part of me was trembling. I had never been more scared. "You are exaggerating," Alvin yelled. "It wasn't like that." "Just leave me alone," I shouted. "Levi, honey," he said, "don't get upset. I love you, and you love me too." "Get away from me," I screamed. "I never want to see you again." He thrust the roses into my arms and softly said, "We love each other. I'm going to take you out to the best restaurant tonight, and then we're going to buy you a new dish, and then we'll go back home and celebrate with a little wine. I bought your favorite." I tried to breathe, but couldn't. I dropped the roses to the floor. Why couldn't Alvin leave me alone? I had a client next to me. I was at work. This was important business, and I was terrified. I couldn't control myself. "Stay away from me," I screamed. "I will never go back to you. I will call the police." Unfazed, as if Alvin had to deal with crazy boyfriends all the time, Alvin tried to take my hand and said, "You'll call the police on the man you love? Baby, I love you. We're meant to be together. Besides, who else would want you?" "Excuse me?" I screamed. "That came out wrong," Alvin said. "I mean, who else will love you like I do? Who else will tolerate your insecurities? You have a lot, but I love you, so they don't matter." "Perhaps you could explain why you're interrupting my business," my boss said. Flanking him were two burly co-workers, and then a couple more guys behind them. "This doesn't concern you," Alvin shouted. "Since this is my store and you are causing a disturbance," my boss said, "yes, it does." "Fine. Levi will come back to me right now," Alvin said, "and I will not leave until Levi admits he loves me and moves back in with me." "No," I said. "It's over, forever. I never want to see you again." "Baby, you don't mean that," Alvin shouted. "Sounds like he does to me," my boss said. "Guys, escort this gentleman out of the store. He is not welcome back." I'm not giving up, Alvin said. I will find where you live and win you back. No, was all I could say. My boss placed a hand on my shoulder and stared Alvin down. If I see you harassing my employees, specifically Levi, I'm calling the police. Get out. Alvin hovered outside the front of the store until a cop car drove through the parking lot, and he finally disappeared. My boss walked me to my car, where I spent an hour driving in random directions before heading back to my dorm. I was a nervous mess. What am I going to do? As soon as I walked into our dorm, Mads took one look at me and said, "Crap, you've had a really bad day. Tell me what happened." Tate and Boris came over, bearing nachos and cheese and salsa. Part of me must have needed to talk because, over the next hour, I confessed everything to them. The reason I moved, Alvin breaking the dish, Alvin shoving me, and him showing up to my work today with flowers. "He won't leave me alone," I said, "and now I'm scared to go anywhere. What if he learns where I live?" "I break something," Boris said. "Maybe his arm, or his leg, or his face." "Let's call Hannah," Mads said. Tate gave me a wicked grin. "I hope he does come by, because I need the practice. Levi, I'm taking you out to pizza right now, because you need a beer, and I need something to eat. Guys, coming?" "I have a paper due tomorrow," Mads said. Boris chuckled and said, "I'm going to stay here, door open, and see if he shows up." And then Boris flexed his fist. "How could he find out where I live?" I asked. "If Alvin shows up," Boris said, cracking his knuckles, "should I punch him before or after I ask him?" A few minutes later, I walked with Tate to a nearby diner. As we walked, Tate said hello to everyone. It seemed like there wasn't a person he didn't know by name. Was there a person who didn't know him? "Hey, Val," he called to one woman. She carried a bag of groceries in addition to her backpack. "I want you to meet a friend of mine," Tate said. "Levi." "Hi, nice to meet you," she said, and quickly hugged Tate. "The gang still on for Saturday?" "You know it," Tate said. Val quickly hugged me and said, "You think lightning will strike twice?" Tate took my hand and then said, "That would make 2 in a row. Tell everybody final practice is Friday night." "I'll spread the word," Val said, casually kissed Tate, and took off. "What was that about?" I asked Tate. "Something fun," Tate said. "Do you have anything happening this weekend?" Tate must have introduced me to at least 5 more people after that. He knew everybody, and everybody knew him. When we arrived at the diner, the waitress, who also knew Tate, took us to a booth by a window that gave us an excellent view. Tate ordered a coffee, me a cappuccino, and we both ordered the house double-stacked burger with fries. Tate simply said, "Since I asked you out, it's my date, and I pay. You can handle our second date." Was he serious about it being a date? A part of me began to panic. We made casual small talk until the food arrived. "Relax. I know what it's like," Tate said. "What do you mean?" I asked, eating a French fry. Tate paused for a second, as if examining a painful memory, before he finally said, "I had an ex that wouldn't let go. He never showed up to my work, but he wouldn't stop calling or coming over." "What did you do?" I asked. "Changed my number, and then told him that if he ever came by my apartment again, I'd call the cops on myself to keep me from beating him to mush," Tate said. I laughed. "I'm serious," he said. "I dance for 2 reasons, because I'm having fun, or I'm about to get violent." "You're serious," I said. "Like an appendicitis," he said, taking a swig of his coffee. "I got my black belt the year after I graduated high school." "You're a black belt?" I asked. "Great way to exercise the abs," he said, dipping a fry into the ketchup on his burger and then eating the fry. "What does that have to do with dancing?" I asked. "When you're performing a kata," Tate said, "those are the karate moves. It's kind of like you're dancing." Seeking to change the subject, I asked, "So what's this Saturday? A karate thing?" "Nothing like that," Tate said. "It's a flash mob in the plaza in front of the high roller Ferris wheel." Tate said it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "You're kidding," I said without thinking. "You're part of a flash mob?" "I told you I dance for fun," Tate said. "Stick with me for the next couple of days, and you'll be amazed. There's about 50 of us who are part of the flash mob. One of my friend's brothers is just getting out of the Navy, and we're going to surprise him. Besides, I can protect you from Alvin if he shows up." "Do you want me to call the cops to prevent you from beating him to mush?" I said, smiling. "Good idea," Tate said. "I don't take well to people treating my friends poorly. You should only have to say no once and be done with it, not over and over again. Someone tells me to buzz off, I will. They'll never see me again." "Even if you really like them?" I asked. Tate gave me an odd smile, and the look he gave me told me he was very serious, and he quietly said, "Especially if I really like them, because that means I respect them. You don't hurt people you respect." "Won't you fight to keep what you have?" I asked. Tate pulled a piece of tomato from his burger, ate it, and said, "You mean like Alvin is trying to do? A relationship takes 2 yes votes. If one of you votes no, there is no relationship. Last I checked, you voted no. There is no relationship." I didn't know what to say to that, so I ate another fry. It did give me something to think about. So I finally said, "Alvin crossed a line because he was always so angry, and then he broke Grandma's dish and then shoved me to the floor. I miss what we had a year ago, but I don't love him anymore." And Tate simply said, "A relationship takes 2 yes votes." I stayed with Tate for the rest of the night, thinking about boundaries, thinking that maybe I didn't have any, thinking that I had a lot more to think about. Tate stayed with me, helping me stay calm. It was weird, but I felt like this man, who I had barely met, genuinely cared for me. Tate stayed near me as much as he could, and I stayed near him. Friday night, he invited me to the final practice, and I got to meet the mob in the park. I watched as they practiced the entire number for Saturday. They were singing and dancing the entire time, running through their routine at least 10 times. Then they ran through it again. I always thought flash mobs were spontaneous, but to get everything right, something this complicated would require a lot of practice. They'd set up a space in the park using boxes and tables and chairs to be a rough replica of the plaza. The energy of all the people was infectious. Watching them sing and dance and move brought a sense of fun to my life that I had been missing with Alvin. Being with Tate brought that excitement back to my heart. The joy on his face, the way he lived, made me want to be like him, to be near him, to hold him. For a second, I forgot my vow of not getting in another relationship. It's just, I wanted to feel alive, because it had been a long time since I had felt that with Alvin. He got angry if he wasn't in control. I, was actually scared of him. That was the missing factor. If Alvin couldn't control every aspect of his life, or my life, or those about him, he got angry. The worse he lost control, the angrier he got. If only I had realized this sooner. A deep melancholy shadowed my heart. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to love. But that had been impossible with Alvin. How long ago had I traded looking for love with settling for living with fear? Fear of the next thing that would trigger Alvin's anger. Fear of the next impossible thing Alvin would order of me. Fear of him getting angry at me. Tate gave an odd shimmy when he started to dance. It wasn't dancing, more like jumping or bouncing. He loved to move. He loved being with people. He loved talking with people. Tate smiled and laughed and came alive when he was around others. Why can't I be alive like he was? Why can't I live anymore? Why do I have to live in fear? As I watched the other guys practice and work out their choreography, my phone rang. My mom? She seldom called me. "Word is you've moved," Mom said. Her voice held a slight slosh. "How come you never told me?" "Have you started drinking already? You know what the doctor said it's doing to your liver," I said. "Don't judge me," she said. "My doctor doesn't know anything. And besides, it's only courtesy you tell your mother you moved. Why didn't you tell me?" "I had to get out of there fast," I said. "Alvin turned into an angry monster. He even broke Grandma's dish on purpose." For some reason, I didn't want to tell Mom about Alvin shoving me. I guess a part of me was ashamed. A part of me wanted to forget it ever happened. "You left a good man because he broke your dish," Mom said. "Boo-hoo. I want you two to kiss and make up. Alvin makes good money, and he took care of you. Look at that nice place you lived in, and he loved you. Dumb kid like you didn't know when you had it so good." "It wasn't good," I said. "Stay out of my life, Mom, because you don't know anything." "I'm not going to let you make a mistake," Mom said. "I'm still your mother. I want to know where you're living." "I moved to one of the dorms," I said. "Paulson Hall. I've informed security that if Alvin shows up," I started to say. "God, everything is about you. Do you have to be such a drama queen all the time?" Mom said, and hung up. Why is it that every time I talk to Mom, I feel like I've lost the game of life? I put my phone away and watched all the people practice for Saturday, especially Tate. He wasn't a professional dancer, but he had some nice moves. I loved watching his lean body shift into the different poses, or I loved listening to him sing. And though it wasn't long after the breakup with Alvin, I found myself attracted to Tate. Was it too soon to trust again? How did I feel the last time I'd seen Alvin? It had been at my work. Scared the crap out of me. It took hours to calm down. And that was all thanks to Tate. No, I did not want to see Alvin again. But I did want to see Tate. I did want to date Tate. It didn't take much to imagine running my fingers through his curly hair. This had been the final practice before their performance on Saturday. The flash mob were as ready as they ever would be. Tate, Val, and a couple of his friends walked over to me, and Tate said, "Levi, we need a favor." "Name it," I said. "We need another angle," Val said. "Angle?" I asked. "Camera angle," she said, "specifically on the other side of the dancers. We'll miss a lot of people if somebody isn't there." Tate nodded and said, "We want you to film us. Then we edit your film with the others, and we can turn this into a viral video. I can add subtitles, special effects, and make this into something special," a guy said. "A good flash mob with the right video can get millions of hits overnight. Imagine us with 1,000,000 hits." "Everything is covered," Tate said. "We just need lots of film. The more angles we get, the more screen time people can get, and you might get shots other people can't get." "It's all in the angles," Val said. "Besides," Tate said, "you'll be safe with us and away from Alvin." "Safety in numbers," Val said. "You'll be safe with all us crazy people around you," the guy said. I agreed, and then Tate and I took off. Rather than going back to the dorm, we drove to Hearthfire Pizza, talking, and finally went back to the dorms with takeout pizza to split with Boris and Mads. I guess I'd been afraid for nothing, because Alvin never showed. Mom's comments bothered me. She was on the side with the most money. It sounds like the divorce with Dad all over again. Mom left Dad because he didn't make enough money. She later met someone who did. After pizza, Tate pulled me aside, his mouth grim. "I've been thinking," he said. Problem? I asked. The way I understand it, Tate said, Alvin has at least 50 pounds on you. He's taller, heavier, and isn't afraid to use that to his advantage. I began to get nervous all over again and folded my arms. Relax, Tate said. Let's say he grabs you, probably by the arm or the shirt. Let me show you what I would do. Boris, I need to borrow you for a moment. For the next hour, Boris and Mads practiced grabbing me or Tate, and we all learned how to escape. Surprisingly, it was easy. Especially when Tate loaned me his spike bracelet. Nobody wanted to grab that arm, and when I brought the bracelet down, they let go fast. I practiced with both the bracelet and without it. About 3, Saturday afternoon, we went to the plaza in front of the giant Vegas Ferris wheel, the high roller. Within 30 minutes, everybody was in position, and word had come that our guest of honor was on his way. It would be a complete surprise. 10 minutes later, we got the signal. I looked about and finally spotted our guest of honor. Wouldn't you know it, my phone rang. I glanced at it. It was from Hannah, the dorm monitor. Some guy was asking about you about an hour ago down in the laundry room. Is this your ex? My stomach soured. It was a still image of some guy talking to some girls in the laundry room. Because of the angle and a slight blurriness, I'd need to transfer it to my laptop and enlarge it to know for sure. I texted, maybe. I'm not home, so I'll get back to you. Had Alvin tracked me down? Was he in Paulson Hall right now? How? With all the people and guests coming in and out of the building, maybe it was someone that looked similar. The song started with a boom and drowned out my thoughts. It went up-tempo from there. Suddenly, one part of the group broke out in song, and then the dance area became alive with dancers. Tate was one of them. The intensity increased, became a high-octane dance song. Somehow the mob had hidden speakers about the place, and the music was loud and wild and infectious. I filmed it all, trying to get as many of the dancers as I could. Random groups around the plaza broke out in song. It was glorious. Once they realized what was happening, other people began filming and singing along. The fastest, wildest, most chaotic, most fun 1 minute 30 seconds of my life. Somebody grabbed my wrist and yanked. You're coming with me because I love you and I need you to be with me. Get away from me, I yelled. I bought you a new dish, he said. My guts panicked. I did the little twist Tate had shown me, but Alvin didn't let go. I yanked my arm as hard as I could, throwing Alvin a little off balance. He still didn't let go. I brought the spiked bracelet down on his arm. He let go before the spikes hit him. I ran and stood by one of the other filmers and filmed a stunned Alvin, staring at me. I'm calling the police, I mouthed. Alvin disappeared into the crowd. Had I won? I'd never stood up to him like this before. Would he leave me alone now? I caught a glimpse of him walking away, talking on his phone. Never come back, I yelled. The music was so loud that nobody heard me. One odd thing, how did he find me? Still, I had won. An indescribable feeling of freedom washed through my entire body. I was free. I had stood up to Alvin, and he had left. Suddenly, the crowd cheered and clapped. The flash mob was over. The dancers and singers faded into the crowd. But I had missed the magic that had happened with Tate and his friends. But I felt alive. Tate was next to me, took my hand and led me away. I told him what had happened, what I had done. We were both pumped up on adrenaline. It had been such a short time since I broke up with Alvin, but Tate made me come alive. The way I felt with him, about him, the way I wanted to be with him. I couldn't stop myself. So much had happened. The excitement flooded out of me, and I leaned over to Tate. Our lips met. A warm kiss that showed how alive I feel. The surprise in Tate's eyes delighted me, and I giggled and kissed him again. I was alive. Tate softly whispered, "Are you sure you're ready for this?" I kissed him again, and in response his lips met mine with as much passion as I felt. The afternoon had filled me with adrenaline, just like it had him. We cleaned up, met some of the mob for burgers, and then made our way, holding hands, back to the dorms. It had been a while since that dark lust filled my stomach and told me that I wanted this man, needed this man. When was the last time I felt this way about Alvin? Right before I moved in with him, right before his first angry tantrum. Had I fallen out of love with him clear back then? My fingers fidgeted and played with Tate's. The desire inside me grew. I knew what it meant, but it scared me as well. Was I ready? Once at the dorms, we took the elevator, not caring that the security feed showed us making out in the elevator. We kept pushing buttons, and the elevator rose and fell as we became close and closer. "Mads is at the library with his economic study group," I whispered. "Boris is spending the afternoon at the gym," Tate said. Do you want to come over to my place? We could listen to music, make out, get to know each other, order pizza. Or we could just, talk." The classic guy line, there wouldn't be much, talking. We went into Tate's dorm. Boris and Mads were gone. We were alone. Tate set his Bluetooth speakers to something romantic. "I'll get the drinks," I said, and headed through the bathroom and to my dorm. I had a 6-pack of Coca-Cola, another 6-pack of beer, some chips and cheese and refried beans and salsa for nachos stored under my bed. The nerves hit. You know that deep gut feeling where you know things are about to get very serious. I had it bad. Without thinking, I reached inside a desk drawer and withdrew the package of condoms. It had been so soon since I left Alvin. Was I ready for me and Tate to be more than just friends? Ready or not, I wanted to feel that someone loved me. I wanted to know that I could be loved. I wanted to be free. I took the condoms, the drinks, and headed back through the bathroom. Tate must feel something similar because he'd taken his shirt off and he'd lit a couple of candles. He noticed what I held and gently smiled. He sat on his bed and patted a spot beside him. I sat and held his hand as we eased into a kiss. Let's switch to Tate's point of view. Levi and I were more than just friends now. A lot more than friends. He slept and cuddled into the crook of my shoulder. For the first time since I'd met him, he'd relaxed. The fear he'd been living with since leaving Alvin had disappeared. I lightly kissed his forehead and smiled, remembering the last hour. I pulled the blanket a little tighter about the both of us, and thought about the day, about the flash mob, about Levi being ambushed by Alvin, about me and Levi. I couldn't tell you when it had started, but I really liked him. Can I help it if I fall for dudes in distress? The sound of the door opening on the other side of the bathroom disturbed my thoughts. It came from the other room. Mads must have gone home. Except an older voice rang out in the stillness. "You need to learn to keep your keys with you. I won't do this for you again. Next time, you'll have to wait for your roommate to come home or pay the $50 fee." Mads had forgotten his keys? That's a first. That didn't sound like him. The next voice chilled me, because it wasn't Mads or Boris's. "It won't happen again," it said. What had Hannah's text said? That someone matching Alvin's description was seen in the laundry room? Alvin must have arrived at our dorm, seen us leave for the flash mob, and followed us. Then he waited until Levi was alone. How did he know where Levi lived? A moment later, someone came through the bathroom, quietly whispering, "Levi, I know you're here because your car is outside. I need to talk to you." "How did you find us?" I quietly asked. The man that entered wasn't anybody from the dorm. It was Alvin. I guess my sudden voice surprised him into answering with the truth, because he said, "Levi's mom likes me, and she told me." Alvin's eyes froze when he saw me and Levi in bed. The shock made him pale. Any second now, he'd throw an angry tantrum. I had seconds to defuse it. I kept my voice low so as not to wake Levi, and I said, "Alvin, how could you be so stupid? Let's add breaking and entering to the stalking charges." Alvin paused as he entered our room, looking at the two of us lying in bed, at the candles and our clothes on the floor, at the half-eaten nachos we had fed each other earlier, at the ripped-open condom package lying on the floor. He focused on Levi's sleeping face and finally said, "What's going on?" "Simple," I softly said. "You broke someone precious. You broke his soul. Levi's lived in terror you'd find him for the last several weeks, and here you are. Haven't you done enough to terrorize him?" "I didn't want him to leave me," Alvin said. "When I told my dad that Levi was growing distant, he told me I needed a firm hand. I needed to take control. I tried to make him obey me, but every time he defied me. He wouldn't do what I told him to do, and he made me angrier. I didn't realize I'd gone too far until after he'd left. It was only a dish, and I didn't mean to be violent." "Did being an angry control freak work for your dad and mom?" I asked. "No. Mom and Dad are more like roommates now," Alvin said. "Separate rooms. Mom won't eat with Dad and refuses to do anything with him. She's spoken with a lawyer and now records everything Dad says to her." "Levi was starving for love," I said. "He loved you as deeply as anybody could love somebody else. It would only have taken a little kindness, a little love, to turn what you had into something amazing. Once again, you were stupid. Your anger and your pride ruined what should have been beautiful. When I met Levi, he was afraid to love, afraid to trust, afraid to be himself. You destroyed something precious in his soul, and I've been working ever since on helping him see that he is beautiful." "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to be like this," Alvin said. "You need to leave before you do any more damage," I said. "Levi is very fragile right now. If he sees you here, he will have a screaming freak out, and I don't think I'll be able to talk him out of it. If you ever loved him, you need to leave and never contact him again." "But I need him," Alvin said. "You lost that right," I said. "Do better with your next relationship, because there is no fixing this one." Alvin must have believed me, because he left. I snuggled the sleeping Levi a little closer and stared at the vulnerability in his face. Somebody needed to protect Levi while he healed. I volunteered for the job. Alvin never returned, but he did send a replacement dish and an apology letter promising to let go. It was over. By the end of the year, Mads and I traded places so Levi and I could live together. By the end of our second year, two things happened. Levi began to cook again and showed how good he was, and Mads and Boris became our best men. We didn't go on a fancy honeymoon, only down for a week in Disneyland. It took me a while to realize it, but the first time I saw my husband smile was when he said, "I do." Now it's the first thing he does every morning when he sees me. The end. Thank you, friends, for joining me. I'm Gio, writer and reader of this piece. If you'd like to listen to other stories about gay men falling in love, please visit my channel. It's Gio Allred here on YouTube. We'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.